Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and today I've got two sets of top cut deck lists for you. The first of which is a 241 player event, which is our largest event in set 5 so far. A couple of weeks ago we had Charlie Collectibles Show, which was 186 players, and that was our biggest pool of data so far for set 5. But 241 soaring into first place. That event came to us from France, the Lion Cup, and we've got top 8 deck lists to look at for that event. And we'll also be taking a look at a 66 person event that took place at Star City Games, the SCG Con in Tampa. This was a 2K. There was also a 1K the day before, but only one of the top 8 deck lists from that event have made their way onto inkdecks.com. Luckily though, that same person ran that exact same deck list and made top 8 of the SCG Con 2K that we're going to be taking a look at. We've only got 6 of those top 8 deck lists, but that's still a nice variety in list to look at. So lots of data to look at. I want to take a moment as well to say that it's been officially confirmed that I will be casting for the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Birmingham, which I'm absolutely thrilled and incredibly grateful to get to continue to cast for these events. I'm so excited. It'll be obviously the same weekend as Las Vegas, so I'll very much look forward to being able to watch that when I get home. So yeah, super looking forward to that. On the week leading up to the event, I'm planning a video where we're going to take a look at a bunch of data from all of the top cut deck lists that we've looked at so far this season, try and get some exact data for the most popular decks and certain counts and things like that. I've got another multi-person podcast coming, and you may have seen, if you've seen the announcement for the European team for casting Birmingham, we have a 4th member of the team, Ed Templar, who's someone that I've met a couple of times now since the first set championship for the media that took place at the Disney store back when it was just, the first one was only 8 people. Met him then. Great guy. If you're familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh! And you follow that to a degree, then you've probably at least heard of Ed, because he does a lot of hosting for those events and he does hosting for Comic-Con. And yeah, just a really great guy, and I know he's taking it very seriously, and we're going to be doing a video where we'll have him as a guest on the channel before the event, which I feel will be a nice thing to do for some people that might not know Ed, to get to know him a little bit before the DLC. Also, completely off of the topic of Lorcana for a moment, timestamps down below as usual. I've been meaning to talk about this for a while. Sonic fans, I'm talking directly to you. We eating with Sonic 3, right? That trailer was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I'm such a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan. Like there are certain IPs that are super sentimental to me, like Disney, Pokemon, Zelda, Metal Gear Solid, and yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog is probably the 5th like really sentimental IP to me, like from watching the cartoons, playing the games. It was my comic book of choice when I was a kid. Sonic the comic, absolutely loved it. And yeah, the first 2 films have been so perfect. I absolutely adore them. And yeah, the third one looks so good with Shadow and Keanu Reeves. And yeah, I'm just so excited. Just, any Sonic fans, I want to talk about Sonic in chat. But nonetheless, a quick shout out to the channel sponsor, Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, then check out Cardmarket. But let's take a look at some top cut deck lists. Alright, starting off then with the Lion Cup in France, 241 players. And first place, we have the first of 4 Ruby Sapphire decks. I've made the point in previous videos that perhaps we're on a big 3 meta, those being Ruby Sapphire, Ruby Amethyst, and SteelSong. I still think it's pretty wide open and lots of things can win, but these are the things that seem to be coming up more often, most often. SteelSong, I think, in the lead, but with these couple of events that we're going to look at now, Ruby Sapphire seems to be having an equally impressive season so far. So yeah, in terms of new set 5 toys, we've got 4 copies of that new Vision of the Future, which I think is an absolute staple at this point. So glad to see that more players are utilising this. 2 cost inkable. Look at the top 5, put 1 card into your hand and the rest go to the bottom of your deck. Great for being able to find those key pieces, because we are a combo deck. You need to be able to find the Lucky Dime when you need it, the Tamatoa, the Maleficent. We're only running 1 copy of Be Prepared, but I suppose on the 4 Visions, like, again, it kind of going to suck if you want more copies of Be Prepared, but thankfully we're running a 3-4 Sisu line. The empowered sibling going to really help to control the board, along with these 4 copies of Ice Block to get more characters into that range. That's also going to help the 2 Brawls and the 3 Medusas. Running 2 Kuzcos to be a way to banish locations and items like opposing Lucky Dimes. We're not seeing any copies of Hideaway, I think it's called, the 2 cost action, which does this, which I'm seeing more players play... At the beginning of season, it was like everyone was just on the Kuzco, really. But at this point, I think I'm seeing as much, if not more, copies of Hideaway. Just because quite often, like especially if you're removing the dime, then you often need to remove the dime and the Tamatoa in the same turn. And if you're playing the Kuzco, sometimes you'll then also have enough ink to go B-Prep or Maleficent. But the Hideaway just helps it a little bit more. But the really nice thing about Hideaway as well is that in a real pinch, you can use it on your own one-drop Porpsicle to help you ramp, which obviously doesn't sound great, but if you miss ramp in other ways, and you just need to be able to get to that Sisu turn, that Be Prepared turn to equalise against a fast deck, then it may be a saving grace. So I really like the Hideaway, but 2 Kuzcos here, of course, being a body is very nice. What 2 copies of One Jump in here, 2 copies of How Far I'll Go as well for some additional ramp. Standard items, we're seeing 4 copies of Tipo to be another nice way of ramping, 4 Grand Martala for the draw, everything else here looking pretty usual suspect. So a really nice looking list. First place from 241 players is a huge accomplishment, so big congratulations to them. In second place, some more Ruby Sapphire, with some differences here from the first place list. First of all, we are playing 2 copies of that Hideaway, which is useful for all the reasons I just listed. Once again, the 4 copies of Visions of the Future. We've got 3 Ice Block, 2 Brawl, 2 Medusa, a 3/3 Sisu line. We are playing 3 copies of Tipo, but also 4 copies of Chicha, who is a 2-cost uninkable 2/1 quest for 1 support. And during your turn, when you put a card into your inkwell, if it's the second card you've put there this turn, you may draw a card. On curve, this is risky, especially against Steel decks, and even some red decks are running things like Teeth and Ambitions, or just anything that has ping. But later on in the game, if you can assure a turn where you're putting down Chicha, inking, and then inking again courtesy of Lucky Dime, sorry, not Lucky Dime, Fishbone Quill. We're also playing 2 copies of Great Stone Dragon here, which is really good in the sense that you don't have to deplete your hand to ink. Obviously, it lives and dies by how healthy your discard pile is, but we've got a bigger pool of characters here, especially things like Chicha, that if you early game do try and get a cheeky Chicha off, then that's just another character that at least is in the discard to help fuel your Great Stone Dragon. But of course also T-Pose played earlier, a nice way to get that online. So yeah, I do like the Great Stone Dragon in here. We're seeing 1 copy of Scar as well, 7-cost uninkable 6/5 quest for 2. Rush, and Daddy isn't here to save you. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may ready this character. He can't quest for the rest of this turn. So with the right board state, this can be like a one-sided Be Prepared, as long as your opponent's characters are exerted. Again, the Ice Block can help us not take as much damage from multiple challenges with Scar. It's also another nice way to help get around Pete. Obviously, we're already running the Sisus, which with Ice Block can be great. But yeah, so like sometimes if their characters aren't in range, then Scar can really put it to work. We're seeing 3 copies of the new Donald Duck as well, who is the same as Mickey Mouse Detective in terms of ability, but 3/4 quest for 2 on a 5-cost. If we T-bowed or quilled, we can play this from 4 and even at any point. It's just nice to... it's a nice body to put down, questing for 2, flooding that inkwell. We want to ramp nice and high. Other than that, everything else in here looking a pretty usual suspects. A really strong looking deck. 3 copies of Be Prepared, I think, looks a lot better to me. Huge congratulations to them. Next up in top 8, some more Ruby Sapphire. Pretty standard items here. 4 Ice Block, worth mentioning. Only 2 Visions of the Future. 2 Hideaways as opposed to Kuzcos. We're not seeing a Chicha here. Characters that look pretty usual suspects. Only 1 copy of B-Prep again. I think that's low, personally. That does surprise me, but other than that, looking really good. So congratulations to them. And our final Ruby Sapphire list from this event's top 8. Again, a lot of very similar cards. We're seeing 3 copies of Develop Your Brain, along with 3 Vision of the Future. Just another way to help us dig a little more, dig a little deeper. We got 2 copies of Kuzco, no copies of Hideaway, but we are playing 2 copies of that Gaston, who is going to be really good to help check opposing Flynns and just helping dealing with daisies. And just, he's a nice big beat stick that can give you a bit more control over the early game. So yeah, another nice, really nice looking list. Congratulations to them. Going back to top 4 now, we have some Sapphire Steel, which has been a really underperforming deck so far this meta. Pretty much every other meta since set 3 at least, it puts in a decent shift. It has a decent amount of representation by this point in the format, but so far super underperforming. And I know there's a lot of really passionate fans and pilots of this deck that will be glad to see this doing well in this event. Our new toy are 2 copies of the new Mufasa, Ruler of Pride Rock, 8 cost uninkable, 4/9, quest for 4. On play, exert all your ink and add 2 of them to your hand randomly. And whenever he quests, you can ready all cards in your ink well. So you can create board states where you get this Mufasa down, just putting him down you +2, which is nice. And then if he can survive the entire turn, on your next turn, theoretically what you want to do is utilize as much of that ink as you can, and then quest Mufasa, and then have more to play with. Of course, then, you know, how much are you depleting your hand? Of course, we're a whole new world deck, so maybe that's not as much of an issue. Sometimes you may be tempted into overextending, which could be bad, running into things like Be Prepared, Sisu's, Under the Seas, things like that. But if you know what you're doing with the list, if you know when to pull the trigger, then this can create some humongous turns, especially with those 2 lucky dimes, which are going to combo nicely with the Tamatoa. Our mid-range is pretty standard. We've got 4 Tinkerbell for some nice ball control, Cogsworth to be a very reliable singer, Flavisham for draw, 3 copies of that Pete to lock down actions, Smee for stats, Tipo for additional ramp, 3 copies of Captain Hook to have a bit more control over the early game. We've got 2 Zeus and 2 Let It Go for removal, 3 copies of Fire the Cannons as well to break shift lines, get rid of Flins, Diablos if they're not at the code, things like that. 3 copies of Grab Your Swords. Looks high to me only because so many Steel decks I've seen this format are on 0 to 2. Not many are playing a higher count. I'm not really experienced with Steel, so I've finally had a bit more time to playtest a bit more, but I've been rocking Ruby Sapphire, SteelSong, and Ruby Amethyst more than anything, and a fun deck. But yeah, I haven't played too much with SteelSong. I've run a couple of copies of Grab Swords, but I've not run any Blue Steel at the moment. But 3 copies here, 3 Whole New World seems low to me. But then again, there are people out there that are playing no copies of Whole New World in Blue Steel. 3 Hideaway here to get rid of items and locations. But yeah, super good looking deck. Glad to see Blue Steel being repped. In top 4, we have very much a fan favourite. We have some Blurple, which I think has been very much overperforming this season compared to what I imagine would be the case. Our Amethyst package, our bounce stuff is pretty standard here. 4 Snake, 4 Fox. We've got 4 Crab here, so many of these smaller characters can become really formidable threats. We've got 2 copies of Elephant. That's going to be super nice into Steel decks and like anything aggro. Elephant can put in a lot of work. We've got 3 Goat and 4 Rabbit. Our 1-drops are 4 Chernobog and 3 copies of Cogsworth to give rush. We've got 4 Tipo to be our sole way of ramp. Oh no, we've got 3 copies of Mickey here, so Tipo and Mickey are our ramp cards. Running 2 copies of Bell, which could be a nice answer to aggro. Again, you put damage on yourself quite quickly if you can use things like Cogsworth to rush in like a crab or a Mickey Mouse or something that's got a relatively decent body that might survive in the first couple of turns of the game, and then Bell can come in and snipe out of nowhere. We're running 4 copies of the 5th Spirit Elsa, Rush, Evasive, and Exert on play. Super nice, kind of does a similar job to Brawl, is a discussion that I've been having a lot on the channel recently. And we'll, in the next video, will be an interview with Kendall, who we're going to look at their list for the next event. And yeah, super interesting chat with them and Ruby Amethyst in particular. And we talk about a lot of Elsa in it fulfilling the role that Brawl does in some ways. But yeah, these Elsa's putting into work, but also enabling us to run 3 copies of the Spirit of Winter, who's just such a oppressive late game option. 2 copies of Yzma is really diverse to just bounce a character back into its owner's deck, and that player draws 2 cards to get rid of a threat, or bounce one of your own characters back to just get a nice card draw off, and like bouncing back your goats and your rabbits can be game changing. 2 copies of Kuzco to get rid of locations and items. 2 Hades to be some spot removal. We've got 2 copies of that big bad Mufasa, 4 Friends, 2 Let It Go for some more removal, and 4 copies of the Library. Yeah, super strong looking, really fun looking as well. And yeah, I think Blurple has been performing much better than I imagined it would. It's going to be super interesting to see how much Blurple is being represented at the DLCs in Birmingham and Vegas, and then take it a step further, how many will make day 2. But yeah, I hope we see it for what it's worth. But yeah, huge congratulations to them. And going back to top 8, our final 2 deck lists are both SteelSong. Again, Ruby Sapphire, definitely the most, the highest success rate for this event, but SteelSong once again putting in an awful lot of work. We've got a very aggressive version here running those 3 Piglet. We've got 2 Ursula to help us get songs online. We are running those 3 Lantern, the Beat Candio special, very much them that's brought that back to the popular way of running SteelSong as it seems to be at the moment with the results that he had at Charlie Collector Collectibles show, and he also we'll also be looking at DeCandio's list when we go through the SCG con list in a minute. But yeah, these lanterns just allowing you to do what SteelSong wants to do even more, which is just extend as much as you can with as many characters, refresh your hand, and just keep overpressing your opponent. And if you can put down things like Pete as well, just to take away the option of those grab swords, those be prepared, though that can be absolutely huge. The song's looking pretty standard, 4 whole new world, no grab swords in here. We've got 3 Zeus, 4 strength, 4 storm, and 2 bare necessities to help snipe those songs. We are running 4 copies of Ballroom Sensation Cinderella to help us sing a lot of these songs, and 3 copies of the Stout-Hearted Cinderella to be a really nice late game big body. We've got 4 Smee, 4 Ariel, those 4 Pete as I mentioned, 4 copies of the Prince Naveen, again very much DeCandio that I think has put their flag in the ground saying that they like the high count, they like the 4, although they are only running 3 in the list of theirs that we're going to look at in when we get to the next event, but we'll dissect that when we get to it. But yeah, just bringing attention to the fact that this looks very similar to the DeCandio list. It may actually even be card for card the same list. 4 Rapunzel for some more draw, and of course that 4 for Robin Hood Lions. Yep, SteelSong still looking really good. I think it's going to be a really popular pick for the DLCs. Congratulations to them. And a final list for the Lion Cup event, also SteelSong, but a bit more of a toolbox option. For our 1-drops, we're also running 3 copies of that Daisy Duck to be a really aggressive quester, and of course, playing this early, making your opponent, even if your opponent is drawing cards from whenever you quest, sometimes it's going to help them, sometimes we don't care because we're building to play a whole new world anyway. 2 copies of that Piglet, 2 Ursula, we're running 2 copies of Lawrence, really nice beat stick, he's a 4/4 when he's got no damage and questing for 2. Only 2 copies of Pete, once again the 4 Prince Naveen. We're seeing only a 3/3 Robin Hood line, 1 copy of the Cinderella Stout-Hearted, and 1 copy of the Ariel Sonic Warrior to be a potential shift option onto Ariel. And like, she's great again, outside of red decks, who obviously have a lot of ways of dealing with this. Ariel is so tough to remove, so nice option. We've got 2 bare necessities, also 1 copy of the World's Greatest Criminal Mind, which still has a lot of targets, even though we're not running the Queen Floodborn line in here, but things like Tamatoa, I was about to say Simba, but Simba's got that magic 4 strength at the moment. But yeah, Tamatoa, Maui, Maleficent, things like that. And again, it's inkable at the end of the day. Song's looking pretty standard, but we are running 2 copies of Grab Your Swords and 1, a Flatinum, which is a 4-cost inkable action song. Banish all items, which is going to be like, again, the blue, red, and the blue steel decks are going to absolutely hate you for that. So yeah, it looks really nice. I don't hate the tech options that they've opted for. No surprise to see this do well, so congratulations to them. Alright, moving on to our second event, the SCG Con, which was 66 players. This was a 2K event. I've only got 6 of the lists. But we'll start off with the second place list, which, as I was just alluding to not too long ago, we've got B. DeCandio in second place with SteelSong. The list looks very similar to the one that they played at Charlie Collectibles' show. Except this time they are playing 2 copies of Grab Your Swords, which they weren't playing previously, and they're playing 3 copies of Tinkerbell, who was not in the list before. They've dropped down 1 copy of Prince Naveen and 1 copy of Cinderella Stout-Hearted. And we've dropped 1 Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain. So yeah, the addition of Tinkerbells and Grab Your Swords, definitely a big change. And going down to only 3 Prince Naveen. And yeah, I remember watching a podcast with Beat Candio on it, and he was saying that when he builds his deck, he doesn't try to fit in 4 Prince Naveen. He's starting with 4 Prince Naveen and then building around that. So maybe this is him changing his mind. Maybe this is him just experimenting with it. Just like, I can absolutely see the idea of just going, I think it's 4, but okay, I'll play 3 and I'll see if that, I'll see if I miss the 4th. And like, Vita Candio is a great player. They're definitely someone that's going to do their research. So this may or may not indicate that they think like 3 is now better than 4. It may just be them trying something out, but nonetheless took them second place in a very respectable field. So another huge congratulations to DeCandio. All right, going into first place for the SCG Con, we've got some Emerald Amber. Under the sea, darling, it's better down, but it's wetter. Take it from me. Sorry, I am aware I've not been singing as much in videos, and I know there is an audience for that, so sometimes we got to remember. But yeah, super good to see this list doing well. I'll be honest, we've not been talking about this list as much as I would have thought. I was really hyping this list towards the end of set 4 and early set 5, saying I think it could do super well. Obviously, set 4 it wasn't doing well because of Bucky, but then as soon as Bucky went, like for the Toronto event, this performed really well, and like it was definitely doing well in the first couple of weeks of events for set 5. We haven't talked about it much for a while, but still just a super strong discard deck. We've got the Under the Sea, 8 cost uninkable, Sing Together 8, put all opposing characters with 2 strength or less at the bottom of their deck in any order, and we've got nice ways of getting this online. 3 copies of Painting the Roses Red, which lowers character strength by 1 and lets you draw a card, and we've got 4 copies of Kida here, who on play lowers the strength of everything by 3. So the 2 great ways to get more characters into this Under the Sea range. We've got 4 copies of the Muses, who whenever you play a song, you can return a character of 2 strength or less to the hand, so another way to control the board. We've got 2 copies of that Lyle Tiberius Rock with that reckless ability, and whenever one of your characters is banished, your opponent loses a law. Super strong card. We're of course running 4 copies of Prince John because we are a discard variant, so we want to be drawing cards whenever our opponent discards, whether that's because of bare necessity, sudden chill, you have forgotten me, we don't talk about Bruno, Ursula, Deceiver. Lots of discard going on here. We've got 2 copies of Hidden Cove to keep our smaller characters safe. Perhaps most importantly, the 4/4 Diablo line that we're running. So turning our Floodborn Diablo into a 3/3 really upsets a lot of opposing maths, and obviously having access to that 1-drop means we can have this shift line available to us nice and early. There's lots of actions that we could potentially discard. 4 copies of Sir Hiss here to deal with opposing evasive, something like In the Mirror, and just again being evasive, he can often just sit there and sing songs and not be interacted with, which is super good. And 2 copies of Cricky to give us nice challenging turns out of nowhere. Super good looking list. Huge congratulations to them. Alright, going to top 8, we have Kendall with some Ruby Amethyst control. Now, the next video on the channel, like within 24 hours of this one being uploaded, where my next video is an interview with Kendall, which I have already done. It was great to sit down and have a chat with him. He's been a really formidable player since the beginning of the game. Someone like that gets talked about a lot. We've like by me often when covering Top Cut deck lists. They've had a really successful time in Lorcana so far. Really strong Ruby Amethyst player, and yeah, it's about 45-50 minutes of us talking about Ruby Amethyst and going through this list, and they had success at multiple events with nearly this exact list. There was a slight change, but yeah, be on the lookout for that video. Super interesting. But yeah, top 8 here for Kendall, running 4 Broom and 4 Chernobog as our 1-drops. Nice way to thin the deck, and complementing nicely the 2 copies of the library that we're running here in addition to the 4 Queens Castle. Other than that, bounce package is pretty standard. We've got 2 Crab, we are running that Flynn Rider, we've got Sisu, we've got the 4 Castles, we're on 4 Brawl, 4 B Prep, 1 copy of that Empowered Sibling Sisu to shift onto the 3-drop, 3 copies of Medusa. We're not running Tremaine, we're not running B King Undisputed. I will give you slight spoilers and say that that is a part of the conversation that I had with Kendall, and in one of the events that he played, he did switch. He cut 1 Medusa to add a Tremaine to help him against the blue steel and the red blue matchups, and he feels like the 1 Tremaine is sufficient. So yeah, super good looking list. We've seen similar to it before. Huge congratulations to Kendall. In top 4, we've got some more Ruby Amethyst with some REB Dreams. They are opting to play 4 copies of Olaf, which is really nice if you're expecting a lot of steel in your format, in your meta, in your tournament, in your day. If there's going to be a lot of steel in your day, then the 1/3s can really help just give you a bit more survivability to stay on the board. And of course, in conjunction with Crab, you get a ton of utility. We're seeing 3 copies of that Elsa 5th Spirit, 3 Brawl, and I think that is right. If you are going to a lower count of Brawl, it should be because you're running this Elsa 5th Spirit, because it can sort of fill the same sort of job in a lot of circumstances. Hey, if they turn 1 or turn 2 shift Diablo, then yeah, you're probably not being able to deal with that for a while, but hey, just let them draw some cards. If you're in the Ruby Amethyst mirror match, they draw just as many cards as they're probably going to draw with that Diablo, and you can still win the match. So yeah, this Elsa's 5th Spirit I have learned to respect a lot more in Ruby Amethyst. I've always thought it was a good card, but I wasn't convinced it had a place in Ruby Amethyst. I thought it was like a Blurple and a EA Tempo card. But yeah, I am enjoying it since trying it out in Ruby Amethyst. We are running 2 copies of Tremaine and 2 B King Undisputed, so hopefully going to have really good matchups into red, blue, and blue steel. 2 Medusa, 1 Sisu, only 3 Be Prepared, but everything else pretty usual suspects, so congratulations to them. And our last Ruby Amethyst list, in the top 8, we've got Colby, opting for only 7 1-drops, 3 Chernobog's Followers, and 4 Olaf. Standard early to mid-range here and bounce package. We've got 2 Elsa 5th Spirit and 3 Brawl, 2 Medusa, 1 Tremaine, and 2 Bee King, 4 Bee Prep, 4 Friends, 1 Sisu. So, yep, looking good. Congratulations to them. And our final list to look at for this event and this video. In top 4 of the SCG Con, we have Hazed with some Blurple. So we've already looked at Blurple, but this list in particular running 2 copies of Mugduck Manor, 4 cost inkable location, 1 to move there is usually irrelevant, 9 willpower and 2 passive lore gain, but with that 9 willpower, that can be a lot to answer, so I like the inclusion. We've got 3 library here, we've got 2 copies of Medusa, 3 Elsa, Spirit of Winter, which of course, again, we're ramp, but 4/5 Spirit means we have shift options, 3 copies of Donald, running 1 copy of Madam Mim Purple Dragon, 7 cost inkable, 5/7 quest for 4, evasive, and on play you have to bounce 2 characters back to your hand, which, hey, in certain board states you're going to love being able to do this, whether it's your rabbit and your goat, your Donald, or your Mickey for some more ramp. You're coming to play abilities like Hades and Elsa. You love to see it. 2 copies of Ursa Sea Witch Queen, which can really shut down a lot of decks. SteelSong, Blue Steel, just being not taking the option away for them to exert to sing can be huge to a lot of decks, and of course just exerting whenever we quest is nice to help us pin down certain characters. And then 2 copies of the 7 cost uninkable Genie Main Attraction, 5/5 quest for 2, and Phenomenal Showman. While this character is exerted, opposing characters can't ready at the start of their turn. Mad. I do not know how this card did not get away with not just being consistently banished by Maui. Just immediately removed by Maui because it's so slow. Like, even if you ramp, what's the soonest you're doing this? You can go turn 3 Mickey into turn 4 Donald into turn 5 Genie or something involving Tipo. And yeah, again, not every opposing deck is going to be red, but it's uninkable. I don't know, man. I don't get it. I loves it. It's always good to see a more unique card in a deck list that performed well at an event, especially for my thumbnails. So I loves it, and I appreciate you, Hazed, but I do not get it. And if you are watching my video, I'd love to know, like, do you stand by this? Is this staying in the deck? Like, please cook. I'll pin it. I would love to know if you are watching this. But nonetheless, what a result. Huge congratulations to them. And that is it for our 2 sets of deck lists, one of which being our biggest event so far in set 5, 241 players. Super good data to take a look at, and again, we are drawing closer and closer. It's 9 days away at the point of recording. 9 days away from the Disney Lorcana challenges. Again, I'm so excited to get to be there and get to be on the casting team, and I can't wait to see what decks are going to do well and just see the best players in the world play some Lorcana. But yeah, what did you think of these deck lists? Let me know in the comments down below. But that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show support, and we'll see you soon.